Here we go again.
No, not again.
You've been before.
How long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the
Again until we're both dead.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews and connections in mind. We are now more than halfway through 2017, and there have been a lot of movies that have come out this year. Some have been not so great, but others have been just decent, and others have been phenomenal. Now, I just wanted to take a minute to just look back at the year that has been so far and just point out a few of the ones that have been phenomenal and some that have just been okay. And some of the ones that may not have been great. Some of the ones that have been phenomenal, I would say, is obviously a couple of ones in the superhero genre. That the superhero genre has been really big the last decade or so, and this year was no exception. And a couple of the ones that have been great on that scale would be, the first one of the year was Logan, which came out in March, and that was one which I personally feel like that should be in some definite Oscar contenders, alongside June's release of Wonder Woman, which has been great on a number of different levels, both cinematically, resurrecting the DCEU, and as well as being an inspiration for women everywhere. So there's a great movie as well. Another great superhero film that I personally enjoyed was Spider-Man Homecoming, and a lot of you enjoyed it as well. It is the second of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films to come out this year after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, another enjoyable film. And at this point, we all kind of figure it's like, even the MCU's B material that aren't necessarily great, people will come out and see in droves and at least find something to like out of them. Even like the lowest of the low point, Iron Man 2 or Thor: The Dark World, people will find something to enjoy out of those. And this Spider-Man Homecoming was definitely not in those calibers. So there's another superhero film from this year that definitely deserves all of the praise that it got, and you should definitely see that. Some other phenomenal films that have come out this year that other than the superhero genre, have been Dunkirk, which is another potential Oscar contender from Christopher Nolan, which I liked for a number of different reasons, but Christopher Nolan has hit his stride once again and definitely deserves some Oscar buzz around him, as well as War for the Planet of the Apes, which came out this July, and while it hasn't been doing that great in the box office, I still think that it's a great film, and all the critics have loved it. And if you haven't seen it yet, definitely go see that. That's another great one as well. Some personal favorites of mine. I personally enjoyed Kong Skull Island, even though some critics didn't like it. I thought that it was a very enjoyable monster movie, and I really liked the tease that it gave when it, as far as what the direction of that universe is going to go, as well as another one that the critics didn't necessarily fall head over heels over, but I definitely loved beyond all comprehension, would be Atomic Blonde, the most recent film on this list from coming out in late July. And I love that so much. I highly recommend seeing that. It's from one of the co-directors of the first John Wick film, and there's a lot of similarities there. I would definitely recommend seeing that. So some of the movies on that have come this year have not been terrible, but they're just kind of like, all right, they're there, they're good. I can enjoy seeing these, but they're not necessarily blow my socks off sort of thing. A couple of these things would be probably the Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales, as well as Alien Covenant. Also, Fate of the Furious as well is another one that these are all franchise films which are continuing their respective sagas, and while they're not terrible, I definitely found things to enjoy in all of these three of these films. These are films that really didn't necessarily connect with me too much, especially in cases such as like Fate of the Furious and Pirates 5. There are cases like I've invested so much time into these franchises that I went to see them and I was able to enjoy the experience, but at the same time it's like these franchises have definitely done better in the past, and this is not necessarily one of their better outings. Same thing with Alien Covenant, an enjoyable film, but not necessarily the best in the Alien franchise. One of the more controversial films, not necessarily controversy as far as like social outrage goes, but one of the films that people thought that might not be necessary, but whether or not people would enjoy it or not, would be The Mummy with Tom Cruise. I personally found enough to enjoy it, but I could definitely understand the criticism that people have and the low box office returns, definitely in the US. It's been doing better internationally, but at the same time, I definitely understand that the dark universe that this film, that The Mummy was supposed to kick off, is definitely on rough ground and is definitely shaky from this point on. But I am definitely interested in seeing more out of what this particular universe, shared universe, can achieve. Now, of course, in any year of film, there are some films that may not necessarily hit with audiences. The one that I reviewed this year that I didn't really connect with, even though it looked really intriguing, was Life, which came out in March of this year. And I felt that while it was a fairly competently made and somewhat enjoyable horror film set in outer space, I felt that it was just too similar in vein with Alien and other space horror films that have come before. And the jump scares were very predictable, and the twist at the end was also very predictable, and you could see it coming a mile away. So, I don't know, that may have just been me, but I felt that out of the films that I have personally reviewed on my channel this year, that was definitely the one that I would have to point towards. That was not necessarily one of my favorites, even though I was kind of excited going into it, or at least intrigued. Of course, 2017 has a lot of films, and I have not seen all of the films, but there are definitely some films that need mentioning. Though I didn't see it in theaters, I have since seen John Wick Chapter 2, which in my opinion is a solid action film, though not quite as good as the first one. I've yet to see the Lego Batman film, which is something I really need to see because I very much enjoyed the first Lego movie. Ghost in the Shell is one that I've heard mixed reviews about, but I want to see for myself. Triple X, The Return of Xander Cage, is one that I'm curious about only because I went to the trouble of watching the first two Triple X films, even though the second one was awful. I'm curious to see what they did with the third film. Some other films that I've yet to see are Baby Driver and Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. Those two, at least Valerian for sure is probably still in theaters at the time of this video. Baby Driver may not be at this point. I don't know. I still need to see those. I am very excited to see at very least Baby Driver and Valerian. I want to see just for the visual aesthetic as well. Another film that came out this year to high critical praise, even though it was made for not a whole lot of money, was Get Out from Jordan Peele. And that's one that, even though I'm not a huge fan of the horror genre, that's one where I'm very curious to see what came out of it as well. And of course, out of 2017, there are films that, just browsing through the Wikipedia list of films that have been released this year, are films that even when I saw the teaser for them, it's like, I'm not going to see them. Some examples include Tom Hanks' The Circle and the Power Rangers film, which, needless to say, they did not get stellar reviews when they got released, and to me, I was not necessarily really interested in seeing those films, just because I felt no connection at all with these films. So there we have it. There's the recap of 2017 thus far as of the beginning of August. There's still so many great films to look forward to, including but not limited to Kingsman: The Golden Circle, which will be the next film I'll review and come out at the end of September, as well as Thor: Ragnarok, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and the one that I'm somewhat curious about is Murder on the Orient Express. So look forward to some of those reviews coming out soon. I appreciate this look back. I appreciate whatever audience I get as well. And just remember, there's nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before. So until next time, thank you for watching.